My analysis is of the film Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan. I've chosen the film's theme of how love transcends time and space. In my analysis, I explain how the theme is reflected through the following elements: use of sound and editing. These formal elements support Nolan's intent, which demonstrates that love has no boundaries and can bridge vast divides. Sound design is another element that reinforces the film's theme by enhancing the atmosphere and providing a reference to time. The use of music, specifically the music's volume, intensity, and amplitude, help the viewer to understand the scope of space and time, which must be transcended by love. The use of non-diegetic sounds of ticking watches help to underscore the human notion of time, which provides a bridge between Cooper and Murphy. The sound designer for the film was Richard King, the composers were Hans Zimmer, and the mixers were Gary Rizzo and Greg Langard. The music for Interstellar opens up into a sweeping sonic vista, emphasizing the expanse of space. When we look a bit deeper, we see the prominent use of the church organ. This instrument is associated with eternity and sacred, and in the film, it creates a sense of timelessness and spirituality. Also, the organ's sustained chords help the viewer feel the vast cosmic scope. According to IndieWire article, Christopher Nolan and Richard King use subfrequencies, which result in vibrations that make the music even more pronounced. Nolan said, "There's a wonderful feeling of scale that comes by experimenting with sound design, and a wonderful feeling of physicality to the sound that is on Interstellar. We have pushed further than I think anyone else has." This use of sound not only adds scale, but it also mirrors the film's exploration of love as a force that defies physical laws and dimensions and is boundless. The viewer feels the sound of music stretching across time and space, which provides support for the theme that love and emotion can achieve this reach as well. Meanwhile, the recurring ticking motif is a reminder of how the concept of time running out connects humans. And in the film, the characters are connected by the parallel pressures to beat the clock. The ticking clock emphasizes how closely connected their lives are, even though they are universes apart. This technique is used in Miller's Planet, when the metronome-like ticking sound serves as an auditory symbol that reminds us of time and how it ceaselessly marches forward. The final element I reviewed in my analysis of Interstellar is editing. The film's editor, Lee Smith, uses editing techniques of cross-cutting, also known as parallel editing. Cross-cutting breaks up and integrates scenes with other scenes by cutting back and forth between two or more actions, happening simultaneously in separate locations. Examples of how the cross-cutting reinforces the film's central themes of love and connection transcending time and space are in the Tesseract sequence. In both examples, the editor volleys between locations to collapse separation and emphasize love and connection between Cooper and his family. In the Tesseract sequence, rapid cross-cutting is used between the shots of Cooper in the fifth dimension and Murph in her bedroom, visually interweaving their separate spiritual and temporal realities. As Cooper separately attempts to communicate the quantum data through the bookshelf, the editing pace quickens, heightening the tension and sense of the race against time. This frenetic intercutting collapses the vast distance between father and daughter, underlining their unbreakable bond and the film's central theme of love and connection. In the family video message scene, when Cooper views 23 years of messages after being on Miller's Planet, the editing moves fluidly between the shots of him watching the video messages from his son and daughter and his reaction to the actual messages footage of his children aging over the decades. This fluid cross-cutting pointedly collapses the time and distance separating him from his family. As the viewer witnesses the emotional gut punch Cooper is experiencing, the viewer is again reminded that the film's central theme of how love and connection transcends time and space. So in summary, Smith's editing, especially his use of cross-cutting, supports the theme of how love and connection transcend boundaries. By rapidly intercutting sequences between distant spaces and time, the editing conveys how love bridges vast divides. In conclusion, in analyzing Interstellar and the theme that love and connection can transcend space and time, I looked at the formal elements of cinematography, sound design, and editing, and how they were used to make the story more compelling, and to support Christopher Nolan's intent to communicate the theme. I initially connected with this film because of my cousin. He is in the Army now, but he studied at West Point and received a master's in astrophysics from Stanford and was chosen for the U.S. astronaut program. He didn't end up becoming an astronaut, sadly, because they shut down the program, but he knows a lot about space and space travel. He watched the movie with me for the first time. I saw it and he said that everything was mostly accurate. I learned that Christopher Nolan worked with theoretical physicist who had taught at Caltech. His name was Kip Thorne, and he actually came up with the ideas for the film and provided the information on wormholes and black holes. Since I know the film is more than just a science fiction, I was even more interested in learning about the topics it covered and the themes that Christopher Nolan felt were important to share. Thank you.
The Oscar goes to Interstellar.